Hello, I'm Matthew Carl Earl, and I'm the lead composer here at Hexney Audio. So today we're talking about the new set of music for the character Jin Chan, who's from the beloved book Journey to the West, and Tencent decided to take this awesome, beloved character and put them into the game, along with a ton of other classic characters. So I created two main themes for this character, one being a more intense, in-your-face version, and one being a more laid-back, ambient version that can go on loop in the menus. So you'll hear these tracks on the login screens and while navigating through the menus. So writing music for these login screens and splash art, it's so much fun because it's really just music forward. The player opens the game and immediately they're just attacked with our music, and just it's right in your face and you cannot ignore it. And as you're going around trying to find your next game, picking your character, you're just hearing the music all in its full glory. I think my favorite part was just trying to create this atmosphere of peace and zen-like feelings with singing bowls and like distant throat singing, lots of these drones, interesting timbres you can't quite place. And then on top of that, with the character being a traveler and him going on such a long, tedious journey, I wanted kind of the steady beating of drums to just kind of get that relentless heart of the character. I think the most interesting thing about writing music for Honor of Kings is the fact that every character has its own completely unique sound. So every time we're asked to write a new theme, we are totally going into new areas of our creativity, things we haven't tried before, and just trying to push the bounds on what we can do next. Sure, so in trying to create this zen-like atmosphere for the character, we were looking at a lot of Silk Road area instruments and Western China, a little bit of Middle Eastern influence. So we were using duduk, a lot of singing bowls, some throat singing off in the distance, and also just strange synths and strange string textures that you can't quite place what the instruments are, but it just creates that air. So one thing we wanted to be sure of when we were creating the sound for this character was we didn't want these drones and the singing and the bowls, and we didn't want it to turn dark at all. We wanted it to be peaceful and merciful and good. So we had some mixed mode things in the chords, which was a lot of fun too. Just chords that should be minor that are major all of a sudden, or just slight weird shifts in the music that kind of add that peacefulness and that mercifulness. So oftentimes when I'm writing my music, I start with melodic themes first, or I start with some chords. Honestly, this I approached pretty differently. I started with only the texture, and I started with all these bell tones and some percussions, and I added some drones in there with some more interesting instruments, and just trying to create this feeling. And out of that, I was inspired to write the main melody, the ba ba boom ba boom, just along with the beating drums, and it has this long, tedious journey feeling. Yeah, I am so excited for all the players to hear this music. It's some of my favorite music I've written for the game, and being able to record all the music live too has just been really fun. So it's always a privilege when we get to record live orchestra for these tracks, and we all go to our good friends in Salt Lake City, and we recorded a full string and brass section there, and they just performed amazingly, and it added just that extra earthiness that the tracks needed. When we know we're going to be recording live instruments for this music, we're able to do certain things that we're not normally able to do that to achieve with samples. So we're able to try extended techniques on a lot of the instruments. So I recorded a lot of my wind collection, my duduks, and a lot of Chinese winds, and I was able to try a lot of extended techniques and things you wouldn't normally hear played on the instrument, but just to achieve that otherworldly sound. I think one of the final things to achieve that really zen atmosphere was the voice. So we had this idea of just having this really gentle, peaceful male choir humming along, and sometimes having slight chant in the background to create rhythms. And I ended up doing it with my voice and trying some other techniques like throat singing and from other parts of Asia, and just creating this blend of all the voices.
Hi, I'm Richard Ludlow, and I'm the audio director at Hexney Audio. Our studio was asked by Tencent to produce some new music for one of their new characters, and this was a really neat project because the character is so special. Zen, a man of mindfulness, and just really someone that I think a lot of us can relate to. And that really helps us, when we start working on music for a project. It's great to have such a strong story and such a strong historic character that we can really look at and draw inspiration from. So for the Jin Chan character, we were asked to produce a couple different pieces of music. Music for the login and character screens in the game, but also music for this beautiful cinematic. And I think it's great when we're asked to create a number of tracks, because we can really start to tell a story. And so for this project, we had Matthew Carl Earl and Stephen Grove, two of our composers, work on this music together, with Matthew taking more of the in-game tracks and Stephen looking at the cinematic. And this allowed them to really kind of both devote their own special flair to the music, while at the same time working together to make sure that the music was cohesive and to make sure that the pieces work together. So it's always great when we get to record with live musicians, and in this case we got to record strings and brass. One of the people that's just so critical to a great recording experience is the conductor. They're responsible for breathing that life into the music in real time. They're there with the musicians when we can't necessarily be. And so their ability to look at the music that we have on paper and, translate that into this emotional experience and really guide along the players into how and when the music swells emotionally and when it's quieter. They're the person that is that kind of emotional guide for the players. And it's really great that we're able to work with such an awesome conductor on these projects. The conductor for these projects was Nathan Hofheinz, and he always does such an amazing job just bringing our music to life. Whenever we work with live musicians, there's a lot of people that come help make this process come together. There's our music contractor, Jen Sprague. There's our orchestrator, Tracy Turnbull, our engineer, Mike Green, Nathan Hofheinz as the conductor, and all of the amazing musicians. And so it's really a collaborative effort. And that process starts here in Los Angeles, where we're writing the music and then working with our orchestrator, who's here in LA as well. And then it gets very spread out. We sometimes bring in musicians to play internationally or record internationally. For this project, we recorded in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the US. There's a great orchestra there and great musicians. So it's really a process that is not just our studio. A lot of people make this happen and a lot of people help it come to life. Something I think that we do at our studio that we're really fortunate to be able to do is record a ton of stuff right here with our own composers even. They play a lot of different instruments themselves. Matthew, he specializes in throat singing and recording winds, and just the ability to play and bring so many live instruments to a track is really important for creating something that's compelling, something that players are going to connect with. There's that human element, and that's really brought out by these live instruments and these human moments like Matthew singing on the track.